I am Mike Sigel. I'm joined here with Reed Pierce and Kim Davenport. This is our greatest podcast of straight pool. And we have some topics that we're going to talk about why pool is such a great sport. So I'm going to let Don, are you on camera?
Yes.
There he is. Okay, there's Don Mackey, the commissioner. I want you to, he turned red. So Don, now you came up with this subject. Why do you think pool is such a great sport? I'm going to put you...
People like you.
People like me.
Yeah, the three is.
And why is that?
I've always been attracted to who you guys are.
Okay.
Okay, the lives that you've led, okay, your ups, your downs, the talent that you have, and most importantly, okay, survivors.
All right.
I mean, you guys came out of nowhere, okay? I came from a guy that worked in a steel mill, okay? Blue collar. I'm sure all you guys came from working backgrounds, okay? So when I saw what you did with your careers, and there's a lot of guys that we could say this about, okay? I just got a lot of respect. And it always intrigued me, why did you love the game?
Now, okay, Reed. So, okay, I'll say real quick, we all grew up very similar, right? You grew up, you from nowhere, somehow you wound up either in a pool room or your parents had a table or your friend. Same with me. What was intriguing about pool to you? I mean, when did you first start playing?
I started playing when I was 12.
Well, I was 13. I don't want to, and you were?
I was 10.
10, 12. Similar age, okay? So you started playing. What happened?
Well, I picked a cue up. My dad took me to a little recreation center in my hometown, and I started playing on a snooker table. And I played with a cue about this long. And I played on a Coke box in the beginning because I was a little bit short.
I heard that story.
I was a little bit short for the table. They had to give me a little step to get up, to be able to reach the shot. Because a snooker table is 5 by 10, little balls and all that. So I had to be able to reach for the balls. But once I started, you could just see right off that I had the ability to be a player. And then every day I wanted to go to the pool room and hit balls. And
so, okay, I want to interrupt one thing now. I find something extremely interesting. I do the same thing, and I think he does too. You're talking about pool, and now you're right-handed, but immediately you're doing this. I don't even know if you think you're doing that, right? I mean, you're watching him.
No,
he's doing the pool stroke. I mean, that's how it's ingrained, and it's like a golfer. They'll go like this if they're talking, but I think subconsciously you don't even realize that you're like doing a pool stroke, right?
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. You caught me. I mean, I didn't realize I was doing it, honestly.
That's something that's very interesting. So, Kim, you had a similar thing, right?
Well, when I started playing immediately, I was good. I mean, I didn't have to, go for a month or two. I mean, it was like, I'm not saying I just started running out, but
right.
I was, after a couple of 3 days, I was making pool balls, and I was a small little guy, and the old men in the room were watching, and it's like, and then as I got a little older, I did it to make money,
right.
Basically,
And I think we all did that. By the way, your pizza's here. I heard them at the front. Okay, when I started playing pool, I was 13. I started playing. My parents bought a table. I absolutely fell in love with playing pool, and it's like not only challenging, but it intrigued me so much. I bowled a little too,
right.
But after a while, bowling it just became repetitive. It was the same kind of setup. Pool was just totally different. And Joe Rogan, now here's a guy that he loves pool, and he has mentioned me a couple times on his show.
Tom Cruise worked with Mike Sigel.
Okay.
And Mike Sigel is one of the greatest pool players that's ever lived.
Right.
Multiple-time world champion, like literally one of the all-time greats. I've had the opportunity to play Mike Sigel. I played him. I hung out with him. He's a great guy. And he was also left-handed, just like Tom Cruise.
And Tom Cruise is left-handed.
Yeah, and he taught Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise...
He did 20 or 30 minutes on, he said he broke something and he had a rest, so he started playing pool. He broke a bone or something wrestling. And he's talking about the feel, the feel and the touch of pool. Now, right or wrong, I mean, when you have that ability, okay, you mentioned that it's like a part of your arm. Yes. I feel exactly the same way, and I'm sure you do too. Like when I play golf, it feels like a club. I play pool, it feels like I'm just going like this and just rolling the ball down the table.
What I feel about it, it was just when I was good at it, right away, because I really wasn't, when I was 10 years old, you're really not good at anything.
Right.
I mean, most people anyway, most
Right.
kids weren't really good at anything at 10. I mean, there was guys who could pitch baseball and catch them, but immediately it was like, okay, I think I can be good at this. And then they have this little bowling machine in the room. It cost a nickel. And if you could roll a 250 or more, you get an hour of free pool for a nickel.
Really?
So I got good at that little bowling game, real good. And I just kept playing.
I know
ahead.
myself when as a few years went by, I remember we used to get a little at that recreation center. It was a pool hall. It was called Tall Men's Recreation Center. Used to get a little news that was it billiard news, but anyway, I used to have get that in, and I would see your name in it, and I always wanted to be like someone like you. I looked
be
up,
like
I looked up,
I looked up
to you.
Oh my
I looked
God.
up to Mike Sigel
Uh-huh.
because
Now
he's one of the greatest players ever. So
But when I was 15, I snuck into the pool room. You're supposed to be 16 or accompanied by an adult. I brushed tables, 25. They had 25 tables, 4.5 by 9s. Every day I would get off of school. I graduated high school. I didn't go to college, but every day the bus would take me right up to the intersection where the pool room was. I'd walk about another 10 minutes. I come down the stairs, and then the guy had the brush right there. It was like 10 after 3. That's a lot of work. I mean, I had to brush, and I did it good. I brushed all the tables. Then I got to play for free. After I finally won a tournament many years down the road, the guy said, "Okay, you don't have to brush tables." Yeah. But I mean, to me, that was the only, I keep bringing up golf, but Tiger Woods, when he was younger, he was like me. He looked like a dork. I mean, you ever see Tiger Woods when he was younger? He had the big glasses. He was like a toothpick. But then later on, when I was in school, I didn't do anything. I wasn't playing baseball. I wasn't doing any sports, a jock and all that. But pool was like my thing. I don't know.
Pretty good.
Well, by the time I was like 15, this might seem hard to believe. What did I say? Don't seem hard to believe. But anyway, by the time I was 15, hard to believe for me,
Right.
I was actually breaking and running out with 9 red balls. We played 9 red balls.
In snooker.
In snooker,
Yeah,
right. With snooker, breaking, running out on a 5 by 10.
5 by 10.
On a 5 by 10 snooker table, breaking, running out the whole table by the time. So what I would do each day is every time I could do that, I was always go down there, and that would be my goal, would be if I could go there that day, if I could break and run out, all the way out. It wasn't like I was breaking and trying to run out or like that. It was like playing with other people, in the pool room. It wasn't like just one-on-one always. It'd be like 5 people playing, and the person that lost the game back then had to pay for the whole game for everybody. You see what I'm saying? Had a chalkboard and you kept up with it. But that was my goal, was to be able to get there and try to break and run out. And finally, believe it or not, I did one time, probably by the time I was 16, I broke and ran out 3 straight times. 3 straight times.
That's pretty on a snooker table.
On a snooker table.
People realize,
Yes.
but
Good.
an American pool table has what they call a squared off pocket. Okay, any bar, any pool room you've ever seen, the European or snooker type pocket, it's rounded. Anything that kind of goes down the cushion will miss, and the pocket is much smaller. Now the balls are
Smaller.
They're a little smaller, but in comparison, snooker is a much more difficult game for the average player to pocket balls, even though in England, those guys, they run hundreds. Like even I'm in
Oh,
awe.
yeah.
But now let's look at this. I'm going back to Joe Rogan. We're going to get him on the show, don't worry. He was talking about the touch and the feel. I mean, for someone watching, it's almost impossible to explain the intricacies of when you hit a shot. I mean, is it even possible to set up a shot and tell the guy as you follow through how you hit the cue ball, the finish, all these different things that make up making a shot, right?
Well,
I mean, what do you think?
I know I can explain it to myself.
Okay.
I know that.
Well,
Right.
Give it a try, though. I mean,
Sure to get-
if you get up to, well, here's the other thing. Let's take these balls as for instance. Pool is the only sport in the world where you have a club called a golf or tennis or pool cue. You're hitting most of the time a ball. So in tennis, you use a racket, you hit the ball. In golf, you have a club, you hit the ball on the ground. In pool, you have a club into the ball, into another ball, into the pocket. That right there, now you're juggling two things. That's a totally different dynamic, correct?
Right. And plus, it's and the cue ball. Well, the cue ball is the only ball in the game of pool that gets hit every shot.
Interesting.
Every shot, the cue ball gets hit.
Unless you're drinking, then right, then you use different balls.
Well, I would hope not. I mean,
And also, aren't you trying to, it's not just make the ball, you also got to move the cue ball into position for the next shot.
You had to bring that up. So, okay, but here's the thing. Okay, now I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this have seen pool on TV. Okay, now we're trying to hit another audience on top of that audience. Okay, so hopefully we're good. I don't know what's happening yet, but they have a ball, the cue ball called the measle ball. If you've ever seen it, they put that on television. It's a white cue ball, but it's got a lot of red dots on it. However, the reason they did that, professional players side spin the cue ball a lot, especially on a slight angle. So they did that to show the different spins. Now, the average player doesn't do that as much. So a professional player can not only line up a shot, but they can also hit the cue ball a certain way to not only make that particular shot, but now on top of all that, the cue ball has to go to a cushion and over here and over there to line up for the next shot. So you got 2 or 3 different things. You're lining up a cue into a ball, into another ball, into a pocket. That's one tough thing. And the cue ball now, you're also playing after it rebounds, it's got to set up for the next shot. I mean, think about that for a while.
Yeah.
and then you have all of the rails. There's rails everywhere. I mean, you're confined by rails. I mean, that's basically what you're doing. So you have to know when that cue ball goes into a rail because it's going to. I always like to play where I hit a rail that would I could judge my speed off of the rail.
Yes.
I like using the rails to judge my speed.
Let's add another. I'm glad you brought that up because now we're going to add one more thing. Okay, so you're hitting the cue stick into a cue ball, into a ball, into a pocket. Part 1. Most people can't do that. Next, now the cue ball is going to rebound off a cushion with the right spin and dynamics and follow through. That's the second part. Third, the speed. After all of that, okay, so if I want to come over here, I'm not going to hit it like really hard because I went too far. If I hit it too easy, I don't go far enough. So I have to anticipate the shot, okay, the angle, and the speed all at once. Welcome to pocket billiards. Well, but on television, it looks like the easiest thing in the world.
Well,
Okay.
why it looks easy is because once a professional player gets position,
Right.
he usually doesn't get out of position. He
Right.
usually stays in position on every shot. That's why it looks fairly easy. But believe me, it's not.
Well, I mean, we're really getting into this. I've never even explained it that way, but that'll just give people an idea. Pool is and then it's very rewarding because if you happen to make a shot and you hit the ball the right way and get the position, you got the big smile on your face. Like same thing in golf. I play golf, I shoot, I'm bogey, I guess. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating. I might be 100, no, not that. But I get my shots, let's put it that way. You see I'm doing this too, isn't that funny? However, that when I'm playing golf, I can't even remember what I was saying now.
We were talking about golf and the way pool, we react with pool, the speed and all that stuff. So
I lost.
that's all right. That's the first time I've ever heard
I
for work.
totally
Wow.
blanked
Yeah,
out.
We
Can
captured
you
it
believe
live,
that?
ladies and gentlemen.
Don, you
Keep that
Mike
rolling.
Sigel ran out of
Keep him
words.
rolling.
Don, you were trying to ask something.
Aha. What were you asking, Don?
Well, you're making a lot of comparisons between pool and golf.
Yes.
And we've had discussions, all 4 of us, about which game is more difficult to play
Oh
for the
boy, you're gonna
average
bring that
guy.
one up?
Okay, all right. But as you guys well know, that the golf industry and players are in a constant search for a better club, a better ball, right? In pool, what has happened over the last 20, during your guys' careers, to equipment? Are there any major changes? Where is it today compared to yesterday?
You had to bring that up?
Well, we were before. We were talking about the composite cues and so forth. Okay, so any comments on that?
Reed, go ahead.
Well, I mean, are you referring to today's players or when we were playing?
I'm saying, has equipment evolved over the last 30, 40 years in any significant way?
Sure.
Are you playing with the same cue now that you played with when you were growing up?
Yes, I always played with the same cue. I basically got the same cue from by the time I was probably early 20s.
What's it made out of?
Oh, it's maple.
Wood. So it's what?
No, I get it, but it's maple. Are most of them all maple?
Well, I think mine is. Wouldn't it be a?
Well, I mean, here.
Most all the shabs are, aren't they?
Yeah.
No,
Mike, you made cue for years.
In today's world, I'm talking about back in the 80s.
Like me, I made custom pool cues. Okay, so I made real expensive cues, real fancy. Use maple shafts. That was like the standard. I still like maple. Me. But for beginner or people getting into pool, it's not so much the cue. I made cues. I'm gonna tell you right now. The cue is mostly in the joint, the shaft, and the tip and ferrule. The upper end of the cue. The bottom part, that's usually the fancy design. As long as it's weighted correctly, there's ways to splice the cue together and so on to keep the weight kind of even. When you play pool, when you pick up a cue, you hold it. I'm left-handed, so I'm doing everything opposite. You want to hold the cue normally on a wrap near the back, okay? And when you hold the front stretched out where your shaft is, the weight of the cue you want in the middle. Okay, you don't want what they call butt heavy. That's a poorly designed cue. What that means is the company made the cue, and at the end they just stuck a huge weight in the back to balance it out to make it 20 ounce, 21, a standard. So, a better cue is balanced better. It's like in golf, a club, the way you pick it up. But today the shafts, they got composite, they got graphite today. They have not composite, it's wood, but it's glued together in splices. And somehow it's this deflection thing. I don't even know if we should get into that, but okay, I know I'm babbling on.
That deflection thing, though, that was out there when I started playing in the 80s, and I really couldn't understand it. I mean, I know what it is, but every time you shoot, suppose you're deflect.
Well,
deflects the ball.
What happens is, okay, here's the ball. Let's set up a shot. Here's your shaft. Okay, so if you're hitting the cue ball to this side of center, as your shaft goes through, the ball naturally has to move this way. It's dynamics. I mean, it's whatever that word is. So over the years, they have designed flexion shafts or different things to make what they call this ball going this way with an English, make it go as true as possible.
So no deflection would be the perfect pull cue. Would that be correct, or the perfect?
Not in my mind.
But here, okay, now I'm going to throw something in. Okay, watch this. I'm going to throw something in now that this is, to me, it's all meaningless. Sorry, companies. Here's why. No, you find this interesting. Okay, watch. I'm aiming at a shot. Okay, so if I'm aiming at a shot, I'm hitting the cue ball, and I'm hitting the cue ball into a ball into a pocket. I'm aiming, so what looks to me like it's going to go in, right? In other words, if it was straight, here's the pocket, here's the ball, here's the cue ball. Shaft, it would be in a dead line. But naturally, when there's a slight angle, okay, right? Your cue is aiming over here, you're hitting the ball on this side, the ball's going that way, there's all kinds of things going on. I'm looking at something, so are you.
Right.
So when you look at that, you go, ooh, this looks good. You hit it, it goes in. Okay, wait, right? Same thing, correct? Okay, let me ask you a question. Where do you think that comes from? Is it the aim, what looks right to you, or is it your delivery? When you deliver the shot, which do you think is happening?
I think it's the delivery.
The delivery. So no matter if my aim and your aim and your aim and your aim to you could look totally different. But it looks correct because you say, well, I've shot this numerous times. This looks right. When you deliver the cue with your arm, if your arm goes that far through, different reaction. Goes that far through, different reaction. Harder, softer, all these variables means, in my opinion, making or missing the shot. Confusing, but that.
So
You get
your
that?
point, I think all three of you saying is that your entire careers you played with maple cues,
Maple, right?
with steel joints.
No.
Talk about the joint thing. What is that about?
I played with a metal joint.
Okay.
Steel, you're talking about?
Yeah, and you
Steel.
played
Yeah, I played with a steel joint.
Okay, so what I found out making cues by accident, I made pool cues, so I experimented with different joint. I mean, if people don't know that means where you screw the cue together. A two-piece cue has a screw, and then you screw it together. Well, that little piece in the middle could be a resin, could be a plastic, could be metal. Actually, years ago, could be ivory. I'm not against ivory. I'm just saying years ago when it was legal. Okay, I don't want to get into the animal rights thing, but years ago, ivory was legal in the United States. It isn't now, except what's here. But anyway, I found that when the joint of the cue, where you screw it together, when that was harder, the cue deflected more. The softer materials with the shaft with a flex, a softer joint, a ferrule that was a certain material, and the tip. All of those factors determine on how much the shaft would deflect.
So that's why I missed all those
There
balls.
you go. No, that's right. Well,
Would you, if you were having your son, who's a very good player in his own right, Trevor, right?
right.
What would you start him out with?
I started him with one of my cues, the phenolic.
Well, you're right. Oh,
Okay.
phenolic.
The phenolic, yeah, all my cues were phenolic joint. I found that was the best material. For people at home, I know they're all watching this. I don't know if they're confused or not. All you got to do is this. Let's pretend this is a pool table. Okay? You start down here, right in the middle on the spot. Put a piece of chalk in the middle of this rail up on top so you can see it. And then hit your cue ball hard straight at that chalk with right or left English on the cue ball. And you'll see that the cue ball will not hit that mark. If you're hitting this English, the cue ball will hit over here at the chalk. You're using this English, the cue ball will hit over here at the chalk. This will give you an idea how much your cue deflects. Okay, but I still say it's aiming, because as you aim, the speed of the cue could determine a little bit on how much it varies, but it's still the delivery, I believe. A professional player delivers a similar hit.
Are all cue balls the same? I mean, all billiard balls the same?
No.
Talk about the differences.
Go ahead.
Well,
Composite, weight.
yeah, like the cue balls. We play with all kind of different cue balls. You had a blue circle cue ball, you had a red circle cue ball, you had a triangle cue ball. Back when I first started playing pool, we played on a small table with a watermelon. It was a big ball, called it a big rock. But the red circle, blue circle, and the triangular Super Pro Aramith, I believe it was called at that time. My preference was the blue circle. It seemed to be a little heavier, and I played a little better with it because it was a little harder to draw, and I felt like I had a good power stroke.
Now, to me, it's the red circle. See, to me, the blue circle was light.
See, I thought it was a little heavier.
You see, what did you?
And to me, I like the Roshing balls from Germany. It was a black dot. So
A black. Remember, we played with the yellow one. You want to talk about deflection? Now, here's the other thing. Your cue could be, okay. There is a certain, and we're going to get into that too. You bring up that shot later, okay? But the slight deflection, a lot of times can help or not. But they had this other ball I grew up. It was a yellow circle. You remember that? That was, we called it the ping pong ball. If you hit a hair of English on a shot, it would deflect a half an inch. I mean, but if you drew the cue ball, you look like, Ephraim Reyes. I mean, I'll throw a name out there because you could draw it around. You like, well, you beat your chest when you did that.
Well,
but that was a weird ball.
Also, when you, Don, the balls, like when we were playing and gambling. Like, you go into a pool room somewhere, and like when I was out on the road, you would, they would have like old balls, balls that were, that'd been there for years, and they weren't centennial balls or whatever the good balls are that, that were in that era. But I would never play unless you got some good balls out there, because it makes a huge difference if you're playing with, bad balls. In other words, light balls. A lot of those balls, like in a bar or in a old pool room or something, they're light and nothing reacts the same. So, you have to adjust and that sort of thing. It's just, it's a totally different deal. So I never would play really unless you would get the right balls up there if I was betting any big money.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, he's modest with the golfing. Okay, but Kim is a great golfer. Played with everybody under the sun, played every course. But here's the difference, what he's saying. For me, it's like playing on a tour golf course, and I played on a couple of those. The fairway is like a pool slate. Forget about the greens, right? If you take pros and put them on the courses I play, they couldn't make a 4-foot putt. You got divots, you got marks, you got weeds in the middle of the green, right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean,
right. That makes a huge.
I don't know about a 4-foot putt, but you're right though. They're going to struggle with
struggle.
Yeah.
That's kind of course. That's why we play moving around. I mean, you're liable to.
So let me ask you a question. You say moving around. So what if the hole, you have a little 4-foot putt and the weeds in between your ball and the hole? Do you move the ball?
Sometimes. Well, we keep this. Well, it's not a weed, but you know what I mean. There's liable to be there's liable to be a sunken hole in the green that the guy didn't repair.
Yeah, but now you can fix it.
If the rules you can repair,
you can fix anything now.
We don't play by the rules, but I'm just saying. No, but I mean, really,
ball mark.
The kind of courses that I normally play, they're horrible. I mean, it's a struggle to play on. You get a 5-foot putt. I played on some of these great courses. It's like a pool table. You get a 5-foot putt. The pro I was with, the caddy goes, here, just aim a ball out. I hit it, went right in. I mean, I might have made flaws here and there, but basically.
So there's different cue balls, right? Now let's talk about the play balls, just real fast, right? The balls that they're playing with today on the pro events out there, okay? Are they the same as the balls that we played with 30 years ago?
Are they?
I would think they'd be very close. If they're not, I don't know. They'd have to be something very similar.
I don't know if anybody's hit a pool ball here in 15 years.
I know,
so
yeah. See,
that would be kind of hard to answer.
I
think they're pretty similar, like Reed said. I can't believe there's much difference.
It looks like the cloth, though, compared to when I was playing as a young kid, the cloth was like you really had to have a stroke,
right?
And to be able to move the ball around and to get it around the table. What I see the guys that are playing now, the little bit I've watched, the cloth is faster. And
totally different.
Yes, a totally different game. It looks like it's a little simpler. It take a guy with no stroke and he can get out. You playing the way we used to play. I know Mike and Kim both played on that same type cloth. You had to have a power stroke, and all three of us have a power stroke. But we also could play finesse pool too, though.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, now I know, hit the ball harder than me. You hit a lot of shots like that. I like hitting I feel more comfortable powering the ball, okay? But on this newer cloth, the ball is, I mean, what it's done is it's made, I'm just saying, I'm not saying how bad or good people play, but it has made players that are pretty good or, good. I mean, I don't know how to look like really good because of the cloth. I think, right? I think it's making guys today look a lot better than they really are because of the conditions. Well, it's like golf.
So you got cues, cue balls, cue sticks, cue balls, the balls on the table, the cloth, and the cushions, and then the atmosphere.
Right.
That's a pretty complex set of factors to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then the stroke.
Yes. Well, when I used to play, I was a featured player. I'm sure both these guys were too. I would almost always be on the corner of I have a tournament room, maybe 4 tables, 3 rows of them, and naturally more people can get around in the corner. So I normally played on the corners. And the air conditioning and the people moving and all would change that particular table over the other ones. So we sounded pretty good in that one. I forgot to mention one thing. If you really want to improve your game, if you really want to get some memorabilia, we have cues, we have shirts, hats. Make sure you go to the Pro Billiards website, probilliardstour.com. You get to see our matches in their entirety, in the original form. A lot more things going on. The podcast, make sure you check out the website, probilliardstour.com. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.